that it would guide him to attend the Parliament of World Religions, he simply went without any preparation. The thought of the ills from which his country was suffering never left him, and the sight of the progress achieved by Japan reopened the wound. The devil neither died nor gave up. Vivekananda did not die, he did not give up. Many people from the eastern part of the world were already present there to present their thoughts. Hello students, I am Anil, Assistant Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. In this session, we are going to look at an essay written by Roman Roland titled Vivekananda, The Great Journey to the West, for the students of BCA second semester. Roman Roland was a French dramatist, novelist, essayist, art historian and mystic who was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1915. As a tribute to the lofty idealism of his literary production and to the sympathy and love of truth with which he has described different types of human beings. He was an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore. He wrote a still relevant biography of Gandhi and is also noted for his correspondence with numerous writers and thinkers across the globe, including Maxim Gorky, Rabindranath Tagore, and Sigmund Freud. So this man writes something about Vivekananda. We know who Vivekananda is. Vivekananda is a youth icon in India. His birthday, 12th January, is celebrated across the nation as the National Youth Day. So this essay, we shall see what he has to say. This journey was indeed an astonishing adventure. The young Swami went into it at random with his eyes shut. So what is he talking about? He is talking about the journey of Vivekananda to attend the Parliament of World Religions. So that is the journey he is talking about. He had heard vaguely of Parliament of Religions to be opened someday somewhere in America, and he had decided to go to it, although neither he nor his disciples, nor his Indian friends, students, pandits, ministers or maharajas had taken any trouble to find out about it. Nobody knew when this matter was disclosed to the world. Nobody has checked about this. That was the situation when Vivekananda decides to go it with his eyes shut. That means without any preparation. He knew nothing, neither the exact date nor the conditions of admission. So this is what the ignorance was. They did not know anything. He did not take a single credential with him. So he was not credited with any association. He was not part of any association in India. So he did not have any support from anybody in India. He went straight ahead with complete assurance as if it was enough for him to present himself at the right time. That is, God's time. So he completely believed in God, in fate, that it would guide him to attend the Parliament of World Religions. He simply went without any preparation. And although the Maharaj of Khetri had taken his ticket on the board for him, and despite his protests had provided him with a beautiful robe that was to fascinate American idlers no less than his eloquence, neither he nor anybody else had considered the climatic conditions and customs. He froze on the boat when he arrived in Canada in his costume of Indian pomp and ceremony. The Maharaja of Khetri, he took a ticket for Vivekananda to reach Canada. He was given a beautiful attire in the Indian costume. They did not consider the climatic conditions of Canada. So that was the mistake which they did. That means their preparation was not up to the mark when they reached Canada. He left Bombay, now Mumbai, on 31st May 1983. So that was the date when he left Mumbai and went by way of Ceylon, Penang, Singapore, Hong Kong, and then visited Canton and Nagasaki. So through the eastern route, he reached Canada. Thence he went by land to Yokohama, seeing Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo. So he spent some days in Japan. He visited many places. Everywhere, both in China and Japan, his attention was attracted by all that might confirm his hypothesis, his conviction, alike of the religious influence of ancient India over the empires of the Far East and of the spiritual unity of Asia. So wherever Vivekananda went, he left his impressions there. At the same time, the thought of the ills from which his country was suffering never left him, and the sight of the progress achieved by Japan reopened the wound. Vivekananda was deeply hurt when he saw the progress achieved by different countries where his country was suffering. So this created a stronger impression in his mind that what is happening to my country? Why is the world progressing whereas my country is suffering. So this concept opened his wound. He went from Yokohama to Vancouver. Thence by train he found himself towards the middle of July in a state of bewilderment at Chicago. So he was there. Finally he reached Chicago. The whole way was strewn with his feathers, for he was a marked prey for the fleecer. He could be seen from afar. At first, like a great child, he wandered, gazing mouth agape in the World's Fair, the Universal Exposition of Chicago. When he went to Chicago, he was really surprised to see the place, see the people, see the society, everything. He was as if a child looking at everything with surprise. Everything was new to him, and both surprised and stupefied him. He was really stupefied. He had never imagined the power, the riches, the inventive being of a stronger vitality and more sensitive to the appeal of force than a Tagore or a Gandhi, who were oppressed by the frenzy of movement and noise by the whole European American mechanism. Vivekananda was at his case in it, at least at first. He succumbed to its exciting intoxication, and his first feeling was of juvenile acceptance. His admiration knew no bounds. For 12 days, he filled his eager eyes with this new world. So when he went to Chicago, he was really surprised to witness many things. So though he had witnessed many things in India also, he could see a different world in the West. A few days after his arrival in Chicago, he bethought himself to go to the information bureau of the exposition. What a shock! He discovered that the parliament did not open until after the first week of September, and that it was too late for the registration of delegates. Moreover, that no registration would be accepted without official reference. So he went before the parliament started. He was there 2-3 months ahead of the parliament opened. It opened in the first or second week of September, and this man did not have any recommendations from India. He had none. He was unknown, without credentials from any recognized group, and his purse was nearly empty. It would not allow him to wait until the opening of the Congress. He was overwhelmed. So he did not have money, he did not have any recommendations. So he was not part of any of the organized groups. So now he was left without any choice. He was really overwhelmed at his own situation. He cabled to his friends in Madras for help and applied to an official religious society that it might make him a grant. So he called India, Madras, and he sought the help of his friends. But official societies do not forgive independence. So he says, official societies do not forgive independence. He cannot go alone. He should be under our guidance. Then he should have gone. But he has gone alone with all independence. The chief of the society sent this reply: let the devil die of cold. So nobody helped Vivekananda. The reply from this group was, let the devil die of cold. Let him die there. Nobody should help him. The devil neither died nor gave up. Vivekananda did not die. He did not give up. He threw himself upon fate. Again, he trusted fate and God. And instead of hoarding in inaction the few dollars remaining to him, he spent them in visiting Boston. So he went to Boston with the little money which he had. Fate again helped him. Fate always helps those who know how to help themselves. So here this signifies the efforts put on by Vivekananda. He tried to help himself and fate favored him. Vivekananda never passed anywhere unnoticed, but fascinated even while he was unknown. Wherever Vivekananda went, he went and left his impression on each and every person he met. In the Boston train, his appearance and conversations struck a fellow traveler, a rich Massachusetts lady, who questioned him and then interested herself in him, invited him to her house, and introduced him to the Hellenist J.H. Wright. So in a train, he meets a rich lady who introduces Vivekananda to J.H. Wright, a professor at Harvard. The latter was at once struck by the genius of this young Hindu and put himself entirely at his disposal. He insisted that Vivekananda should present Hinduism at the Parliament of Religions and wrote to the president of the committee. So J.H. Wright is the person who helped Vivekananda to attend Parliament of World Religions. He offered the penniless pilgrim a railway ticket to Chicago. and letters of recommendation to the committee for funding lodgings. In short, all these difficulties were removed in an instant. So everything was solved when he met the rich lady who introduced Vivekananda to J.H. Wright. Vivekananda returned to Chicago. The train arrived late, and the dazed young man who had lost the address of the committee did not know where to go. So he was tired out of his journey. Then he did not know where to go when he came to Chicago. Nobody would deign to inform a colored man. He saw a big empty box in a corner of the station and slept in it. Vivekananda faced too much of trouble while reaching Parliament of World Religions. In the morning, he went to discover the way, begging from door to door as a sannyasin. So just like a sannyasi, this man went from door to door seeking the address of Parliament of World Religion. But he was in a city that knows penurge like 1,001 ways of making money, except one, the way of Saint Francis, the vagrancy of God. So that place knew only ways to make money, not human connections. Nobody came forward to help Vivekananda. He was rudely dismissed from some of the houses. At others, he was insulted by the servants. So when he went in search of the help, just to know what was happening, nobody helped. At still others, the doors were slammed on his face. After having wandered for a long time, he sat down exhausted in the street. So when he was too much tired asking help and address of Parliament of Religions, he was really tired. He sat in the street. He was remarked from a window opposite and asked whether he were not a delegate to the Parliament of Religions. And somebody noticed him through a window and asked if he was part of Parliament of World Religions. He was invited in, and once more fate found for him one who was later numbered among his most faithful American followers. When he had rested, he was taken to the Parliament. There he was gladly accepted as a delegate and found himself lodged with the other Oriental delegates to the Parliament. Many people from the eastern part of the world were already present there to present their thoughts. And he joined Parliament of World Religions with the help of a local person who becomes his own follower later. His adventurous journey, which had almost ended disastrously, brought him on this occasion into port, but not for rest. Action called him, for now that fate had done its worst. It had to give place to resolution. The unknown of yesterday, the beggar, the man despised for his color by a mob, wherein the dregs of more than half a dozen of peoples of the world meet at the first glance, was to impose his sovereign genius. So when there were people from different walks of life, walks of spiritual life, so they gathered there, the first task on his hand was to create an impression. First impression is the best impression, kind of an impression. On Monday, 11th September 1893, the first session of the Parliament was opened. In the center sat Cardinal Gibbons. Around him to the left and right were grouped the Oriental delegates, Pratap Chandra Mazumdar, the chief of the Brahma Samaj, an old friend of Vivekananda. He was representing the Indian theist, together with Nagarkar of Bombay, Dharmapala representing the Buddhists of Ceylon, Gandhi representing the Jains, Chakravarti representing with Annie Besant, the Theosophical Society. So many social reforming organizations in India, they were representing their ideas and thoughts. But amongst them all, it was the young man who represented nothing and everything. The man belongs to no sect, but rather to entire Hinduism. His fascinating face, his noble stature, and the gorgeous apparel, which heightened the effect of this apparition from a legendary world, hid his own emotion. He made no secret of it. It was the first time that he had to speak before such an assembly, and as the delegates presented, one by one, had to announce themselves in public in a brief harangue, Vivekananda let his turn go by hour after hour until the end of the day. But then his speech was like a tongue of flame. Among the grey waves of cold dissertation, it fired the souls of listening throng. Hardly had he pronounced the very simple opening words, "Sisters and brothers of America," then hundreds rose in their seats and applauded. So this man had to create a huge impression when he came onto the podium, when he came on the dais. he used this phrase, sisters and brothers of America. No sooner than he said, sisters and brothers of America, all the people stood in their seats and gave him a standing ovation. He wondered whether it could really be they were applauding. He was certainly the first to cast off the formalism of the Congress and to speak to the masses in the language for which they were waiting. Silence fell again. So this was the man who really used the language of the people to understand what they were eagerly waiting for until then. Silence fell again. He greeted the youngest of the nations in the name of most ancient monastic order in the world, the Vedic orders of Sannyasin. So he calls in his speech Hinduism as the ancient order of monks. He represented Hinduism as the mother of religions who had taught them the double percept. So he tells that Hinduism is the mother of the world religion, which had taught the entire world acceptance and tolerance, to accept and understand one another. He quoted two beautiful passages from the sacred books. Whoever comes to me through whatsoever form I reach him. That means in the Gita, it is said that people are struggling to reach God. They may use different religions, different methods, but ultimately they reach God. So that is what is said here. All men are struggling through paths which in the end lead to me. Each of the other orators had spoken of his God, of the God of his sect. He alone spoke of all their gods and embraced them all in the universal being. So here the stark difference between all the other speakers and Vivekananda was this. Vivekananda did not talk about one God. In India, there were many groups which had affiliation to different gods in India. But he was the only person who embraced everybody and spoke about them as the whole. It was the breath of Ramakrishna breaking down the barriers through the mouth of his great disciple. It was the thoughts of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who is the teacher of Vivekananda, which was speaking here. The Parliament of Religions gave the young orator an ovation. So when he finished speaking, the entire audience of the Parliament of World Religions, they gave him the ovation. So here he ends by telling how Vivekananda became so famous with his thoughts, where he united everybody with his great speech. Therefore, he writes this essay titled Vivekananda, The Great Journey to the West. So, what are the hardships he faced and what are the impressions he created wherever he went? How he was concerned about his own nation, and finally when he reached there, how he gave the best opening of his speech, that is Sisters and Brothers of America, which thrilled everybody and also impressed everyone. And his speech, even today, is one of the best speeches in the world. With this, we shall come to an end. We shall meet in the next class. Thank you.